Significant cuts are coming to Vancouver City Hall. Next week, Mayor Ken Sim says he'll introduce a motion directing staff to produce an operating budget with a 0% property tax increase for 2026. And to do that, the city is going to have to make cuts to the tune of $100 million. And trimming at City Hall is already underway. Vancouver has announced the closure of its equity office as a means to save $285,000 per year. And here to talk more about next week's motion and the impacts is ABC City Councillor Sarah Kirby-Yung has been good enough to join us in studio this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Stephen.
Tell us more about this. Well, the mayor's phrase or the slogan is "Zero means zero." That's the name of the motion that Mayor Ken Sim is bringing forward on the 8th of October. What does that mean?
Yeah, maybe I can sort of take you back just in terms of a bit of foundational knowledge. And that is in June, the mayor brought forward a motion when we received a property tax sort of outlook from the City of Vancouver staff. And at that time made a motion and directed staff to look at three scenarios. They were 2.4%, 1%, and 0. A lot has changed in our world since June, as we all know. It's a sort of constant source on the news with respects to the tariff environment, the affordability challenges. We just came off a week at the Union of BC Municipalities last week. We heard from the finance minister and all of the other ministers that the trajectory does not look good. And as you know, the City of Vancouver cannot run deficits. So I think the mayor is responding to the continuing circumstances and is wanting to set some very clear direction for staff that we need to, in order to ensure that we're delivering city services where people that sort of really want them to be and where they matter, that we need to be very clear in that direction. And so he's pivoted to sort of say, let's just focus on the zero. Let's set ourselves up well, because again, as you know, we can't run deficits, but people want to make sure that we're spending the money where it really matters.
But if you want to ensure that city services are provided, why a 0% property tax increase?
Well, I think there's a lot of room to do things differently. I was met with a BIA person yesterday who told me, if I want to put up Christmas lights in my particular neighborhood, that I have to do a 28-page application to do that. And I think we're getting to the point.
Sorry, who has to do an application to put up Christmas lights in
If you're a
neighborhood?
business improvement association, I met with one yesterday.
Okay.
They said you have to do a 28-page application just to put up Christmas lights. I think that the city has a lot of opportunity to really be more effective in our processes. And what you want to do is be able to have an organization like that, for example, do a 3-page application and put it out. So more filling of potholes, more putting up lights, less of the actual paperwork. And I think that there's huge opportunities for improvement there. What we are telling staff in this motion and what the mayor is proposing is what not to cut and what is important to maintain. And so it is maintaining library hours, recreation centers, supporting and filling and improving sidewalks, public safety services that is really important to people, all of arts and culture grants, community grants, all of those things have been very clearly articulated in this motion, that those are things that we want to maintain.
All right. So what goes then? How much money do you save by reducing the paperwork to put up Christmas lights?
Well, I think that that's just an indicative example of the fact that we have gotten
What's
into
a substantial example?
A substantial example, a lot of planning. When I was on the Vancouver Park Board, for example, there was a lot of work that was put into multi-million dollars of plans that we didn't actually have funding to deliver. So I'd like to see less planning and more delivery. That's one example. I think what people want to see, and we've proposed that as well for the capital plan, is let's get things done that actually improve people's quality of life. And they may not be as expensive. It's things like improving playgrounds, delivering dog parks, making sure that we actually can not just plan for a community center, but get one built in each capital cycle. Those are things that the city used to do, and we need to get back to that.
Slashing $100 million from a budget as a means to achieve a 0% property tax in a final budget before a municipal election seemed a bit gimmicky to Councillor Lucy Maloney. She told us, she was a guest on the program yesterday, and she called it a pre-election budget. Is it just a coincidence that in your first year in office, you passed the largest property tax increase in a century, in fact, at 10.7%? That was in your first year. And now in your last year before an election, it's 0%.
Well, I appreciate
that. Is that a coincidence?
I appreciate that Councillor Maloney is new and probably doesn't have the full context in history. When we came in, for example, that 10.7% went to fund things that people said they really wanted and that mattered. So, for example, we fully funded our police department and our fire department for the first time in years. We had a record low in terms of our surplus funds, which is important for the city. We went through COVID. We had to replenish those. Those were at a record low of 2.75%. They're now at a healthy closer to 10%. We also needed to set money aside for infrastructure. And if you look at the tax increases, we did commit that they would be going down over time, and they have. 10 points percent, as you said, then 7.3. Now we're at 3.9. And now we're looking to not just have a reasonable increase this year, but we're looking to be efficient in the operations so that we can set some more predictability for a lot of the businesses and the residents moving forward.
We've also seen fees increase substantially. I mean, in the same year that you had a 10.7% property tax increase, you increased parking fees to the equivalent of another 1.4% property tax increase. That's how much money you increased that by. Is this a shell game? You're saying I'm not going to increase property tax, but you're going to increase user fees across the board. Thereby, everybody pays for it, not just property owners.
I think the goal is to recognize that we have unprecedented affordability challenges, period. And that will include looking at ensuring that we keep fees reasonable, because those also hit people in their pocketbook. And so we are looking to say if we can be effective and efficient in our operations, then that minimizes the amount that we have to increase any fees by. And the goal certainly here is to keep any increases very reasonable.
Over ABC's first term, property tax will have gone up by 22.1%, even if you hold it to zero this year. Is that a reasonable property tax increase over 4 years, do you think?
Well, as I mentioned, we had a hole to dig out of with respect to coming out of the pandemic and with respect to public safety services. So, again, that was a moment in time. We were very clear about that at that time, that we needed to reset and we needed to invest in those services.
Right.
And now we're looking.
But here you are having to slash $100 million out of the city's budget now.
What I would say now is that this is our opportunity for some systemic change to ensure that the City of Vancouver can fund the things that only we are responsible for. It was very clear to us in meetings with all of the different ministries in Victoria last week that they are on a program of austerity, that there's going to be less and less support there, and we're going to have to stand on our own 2 feet. And as I mentioned, we cannot run a deficit. So we need to make sure that the money is going into things that people have told us that they care about. And that is services, that is public safety, and that is enabling housing.
$281 million. Well, this is an estimate from June, but $281 million is the estimated cost to the city of Vancouver alone for hosting 7 World Cup games. Where's that money coming from?
So I would love to see that FIFA agreement released. I can tell you that I think the City of Vancouver's costs there's a lot of speculation out there. We were very responsible in going into that agreement. The province is a major partner in there.
Yeah.
They're also the financial underwriter for those games, and any sort of larger financial responsibilities fall to the province. They don't fall to the City of Vancouver.
But you're still on the hook for $281 million at a minimum.
I cannot speak, and I wish that we could because of the provincial guidelines around that agreement. But what I can say, and I'll say it again, is that any large cost implications fall to the province, not to the City of Vancouver.
Right. So what do you anticipate will happen then in 2027 with the budget? If ABC wins, do we go back to a 10% property tax increase and then watch it go down again until the next election?
No, I think what we're doing, as I said, is an opportunity for systemic change to run our city more effectively. I'd like to see less planning, more delivery, right? Less paperwork, more outcomes. We're moving to things like online permitting, so you can renew your business license easily online. We should just be working smart that way, and we should be putting the money into staff that people care about, right? So it's the library hours. It's putting it into lifeguards. It's been hard to find them, but those are the things that matter to people when you're living in a city that is really expensive. Those things really support livability.
The city some time ago closed the renter's office and then, of course, announced the closure of the equity office this week. I just want you to hear one of the concerns. This is to do with the equity office raised by Councillor Maloney yesterday.
Sure.
I think generally what we fund is what we prioritise in local government. So I'm concerned that this could indicate a downgrading of the importance of these issues in our city.
You may have missed the beginning of that. She said, "What's important is what we or what we care about is what we fund." What do you make of that? I mean, has the importance of the equity office been downgraded by the City of Vancouver? I mean, are you following the U.S. example of let's get rid of DEI?
I think you referenced during that interview with Councillor Maloney yesterday, and I heard it, that the City of Vancouver has long been an equitable employer. In fact, it's led the way, and that happened long before the City of Vancouver had an equity office. That was a decision by our new city manager. A few of those staff were actually redeployed to other departments, right, so they can continue to support that work. I think that is those values are well embedded in the City of Vancouver, but you're absolutely right. We fund what we value, and what we said we value is all of those frontline services that people care about.
Are you worried about the downstream effects of losing so much property tax income? I mean, the VPD is projecting an $8 million, they're over budget by $8 million by the end of 2025. I mean, how can the city of Vancouver, how can people who live here be sure that, the services that they need are going to be there with a 0% property tax increase?
That's why we're doing this work, because if we don't do this work, then that ability will continue to be compromised. Costs are going up for everybody else, just like they are for the city of Vancouver. And if we don't do the work to be really effective and efficient with our outcomes, then you would see property taxes continue to climb because we don't have the ability to run the large deficits that you're seeing with the province. And that trajectory is really concerning. You look at $13 billion now, but the message was very clear from economists at the conference at the Union of BC Municipalities last week. It's not even the size of the current deficit, it is the trajectory that is concerning. So we are looking ahead and planning for how we deliver well.
Is the VPD going to have to cover that $8 million overrun? Or will it be covered in their budget? Are they asking for more money in this year's budget?
Yeah, I expect that they'll come forward to council as part of the budget process, and they'll ask for reimbursement for that. I do note that we also have a new police chief, and it is, I mean, we've had an unprecedented year, as you know, and we've had to respond
Well, you're about to have another one with policing the World Cup.
Yeah, we are the gateway city. We do host a lot of the large events. We're not like Surrey, who received $250 million to support their policing costs in transition. Vancouver continues to shoulder that and shoulder it alone. And those are extraordinary events. I would say separate from that, my expectation as a councillor is that all of our departments, that includes the VPD, we've got a new chief with Chief Rye, that they're going to be looking at how do they effectively and efficiently work within the budget envelopes that council is able to give them.
All right. Councillor Kirby-Yung, thank you so much for taking the time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Sarah Kirby-Yung, ABC City Council.